Use the Force, Luke.
Live long and prosper.
I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Shut up and take my money.
By Grabthar's hammer, what a saving.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
X never, ever marks the spot.
Winter is coming. You're a wizard, Harry.
Stay a while and listen.
Hey ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Bow ties are cool.
So say we all.
This is a Play on Nerds.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls of all ages, to episode 213 of A Play on Nerds. As always, I'm Steve. This other guy is
Jarman.
And we are here to co-host the hell out of this thing. And this week, in honor of two movies featuring anthropomorphized animal men, Better Man and Wolf Man, with the space in between it, we look at the examination of man versus the beast within, a boy facing his journey into manhood, world-bending martial arts. We dive into the 1997 kangaroo classic, Warriors of Virtue,
Which I'd never heard of before now.
and I saw in theaters as a kid.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
One of very few.
We're in for some high-flying fist foot fun later. But before that, German, it's been a lot. Last time we talked was before Christmas.
Yeah,
last time we recorded.
We're recording now on like the 9th of January, and we recorded before Christmas. So I've had dual Christmases. Went to travel to the Weiss family in Lower Florida, and that was fun. They had people over and stuff, and big dinner. And then we had a second one here with my family, and my sister came into town, so that was nice. Got to see her little kiddos. They're adorable. We went to the Crayola experience, which I didn't know existed either. But I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's kind of like this giant, almost like a science center, but every exhibit is for Crayola stuff. So you can pick your own color for a crayon and then put your name on it, and it prints out the label for you, and you put it on the crayon so the kid can get a crayon.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So like my niece, her name is Lena, so she got like Lena Blue. That was the name of like the little crayon she got. You can melt down crayon wax to make little animals. You can get a free these little animals that are washable that you can draw on. And it was just really cute.
Nice.
And it's a giant crayon that walks around, talks to the kids and stuff, creeping them out. So that was fun. And then we found not really like it's like an update because it's just weird, and hellfire is happening over in California. And I know Steve and I both have friends over there, and there's a bunch of fire happening there right now. Luckily, I've called the 2 or 3 friends I have over in LA, and they are all okay, and their houses are okay. But anyone making a little bit more money, their houses are kind of gone at this point in Los Angeles. But are your California buddies doing okay over there?
Yeah, I mean, that's, a 4 or 5 states worth of distance for most of the people that I know.
Oh, I thought some of them still lived over there in California. Oh, you mean distance-wise?
They do. Like, that's Southern California.
That's right.
That's 6 to 7 hour drive away, California.
Okay, that's right. That's good. That's my geography
but
skills.
I'm sure they're getting the smoke.
Oh,
I'm sure they're getting the smoke.
That smell. I remember that smell. But Steve, what have you been up to since before Christmas?
Well, we had Christmas. I got to play Santa for a fundraiser, so that was a real good time.
Yeah.
And a fun learning experience. And then I had off the 5 days leading up to Christmas and was looking forward to doing a lot of really fun stuff with the kids. And on like our first day off, we all got norovirus, me, Dilly, and Joyce.
Ooh.
So I spent, for those of you who don't know, norovirus is called the holiday vomiting virus, like the holiday vomiting sickness.
Didn't know that.
So me, Dilly, and Joyce had a very wicked 3 days, like 2.5 days. We're just well enough that my first solid meal was Christmas Eve dinner at my folks' place. It was my first solid meal I had.
Decent timing, I guess.
Yeah, decent timing. We survived. We made it through Christmas. Went back for a few days of work, and then New Year's, we hosted a party. We had people over because it was also the Penn State bowl game.
Nice.
So we had like half bowl game, half New Year's party, good sized crowd, real fun time. Next day, woke up. It was Anna's birthday.
Very nice.
So we celebrated a little bit. We went to my parents' place for a New Year's Day lunch. And by about 3 p.m., I was feeling really awful. And by 5, I was shivering in my chair with a fever. So I took time off for Anna's birthday so we could spend some time together. And I spent that entire time just ill.
Lovely. Always
I was
vacation.
off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And Sunday was the one day I was able to do anything. Because I was just sweaty and shivering and just felt awful. And it kind of all came with like a mingling cough, which is what you've been hearing throughout our recording. But to be honest, it's becoming less and less. The jag that I had earlier was like my second jag today.
What do you mean jag? I've never heard that term before.
Like a jag cough where like it's just a cough you just can't quite kick.
Oh, I never heard that term
before.
But
when it kicks in, it kicks hard. So like, I'm having a coughing jag. God damn it.
It's a Pittsburgh term. That feels like
it definitely is. But yeah, like a coughing jag where you just have this like sudden coughing fit and then you're fine.
When you get rid of it, is it called a jag off?
Yeah, that's right. You jag off. You jag off everywhere. But Anna is now a couple days behind me with at least some of this. She didn't get the fever, but she's got a cough and, just feels tired. So we're just like a house of illness.
Yeah, you're lucky, listeners. You won't hear all those coughs. I cut them out in post. So
yes. He just makes it sound like I'm laughing at his jokes.
I put a laugh track in. I recorded of Steve laughing. There it is. I can record that.
That's right there. But no, I really wish I had more exciting stuff, but I literally spent a huge chunk of the last 2 weeks sick with 2 completely different things.
Oh, it sucks. I'm sorry.
And the one this last week is the sickest. Anna says it's the sickest she's seen me in like 12 years.
And why can't it happen during the work time so you can take days off?
Well, that was the worst part. I used vacation days
just to be sick
twice and was sick twice.
That sucks. Oh,
yes.
Man.
Yes, it does. But we're all seemingly kind of on the mend now. We just want 1 week where we're not sick. That's all we want now.
That's good. My stepdad had coronavirus yet again right before Christmas, so he was just out of the contagious zone for people to come over for Christmas. That timed out well, and nobody else caught it, so that's all great.
That's been the good thing here. None of this has been coronavirus.
That is good. We got bird flu to worry about soon, so we get that coming on the horizon.
Hey, only if we're lucky.
Yeah. But does that bring us to some nerdy news?
Nerdy news.
It's time for Nerdy News.
All right, so my title this time around for Nerdy News is going to be Sexy Beast in Space. So in honor of the theme of this episode and channeling that animal or beast within, there's a Canadian physician, astronaut, and space sexology expert named Dr. Shauna Pena, who is soon going to be flying on the Virgin Galactic space plane in 2026, I believe. And she talked in the recent podcast about humans eventually having sex in space. So officially, no humans have yet had sex in space, or so we know of. You'd think they would document if they had. But she recommends that they will have to use certain positions to make it viable when it does happen. And she particularly recommends something she is calling dolphin style. So apparently dolphins, or dauphin, as we learned in our...
The dauphin?
The dauphin, our recent Muppet Trek episode. We already know that they're one of the few other species on Earth that, other than humans, that have sex just for fun. And they practice a particular sexual position, which is very practical. It involves 3 dolphins, though. So once 2 dolphins look like they want to have sex, a third dolphin will volunteer to hold one of them in position so the other can do its business. Since otherwise there'd be no leverage in the ocean for the motion of the ocean, as it were. So the same would happen in space. So you just need that really close third astronaut friend to hold your partner in place while you go to town. So
I thought we're talking about astronauts in space and like this is a solution, not like a strap that would just or like a piece of Velcro that would position you. No, we're talking about a third voyeuristic astronaut.
Hey, isn't there a strap over there? No, we need Billy over here to help us out. can I just hold on to these these hand holders? No. Just let Billy hold you in place.
No, it won't be the same. This is for science.
For science. But yeah, for some reason, straps weren't mentioned, but other people were. And that's sexy
Fair.
beast in space.
I'm sure there's a science reason it wouldn't work.
Of course. But that brings our main segment.
That's right, Warriors of Virtue. We meet Ryan, a kid with a leg brace who hangs out in a Chinese restaurant kitchen for some reason and listens to stories of magical warriors and wonder told to him by an adult man. But Ryan's life isn't wonderful. He's the towel boy for the football team. He doesn't get credit for a game-saving play that he calls from the sidelines. And, of course, the QB and jerk takes all the glory. And this is where I wrote, why is there so much slow motion and why? Ryan and his friend Chucky meander home. Chucky calls out the QB for Brian calling the winning play. And the QB comes over and gives him credit, to much the audience's surprise, and offers Ryan to come hang out with the guys tonight. Ryan goes and gets advice from his Chinese restaurant cook, adult man, best friend. There's a lot of words I had to string together to make that happen. Who gives him advice that the struggle of his life is what will make him from a butterfly into a thing or whatever. That's what makes a butterfly. He's given a book from, once again, a gift from his adult man, Chinese restaurant cook man friend, best friend. Ryan and Chucky go to meet the quarterback and his gang in a dangerous tunnel sewer for their initiation. Ryan has to cross an extremely narrow pipe over a swirling vortex of water and tag a wall. The QB actually does do it first, and Ryan goes for it, but just then a pipe of water blasts him, and he is knocked into the swirling vortex of water as his friends look on and just let him die, I guess, in this reality. Ryan finds himself suddenly in a strange forest with impossibly tall trees, and then suddenly there's bad guy soldiers after him. Suddenly, I wrote the word suddenly like 4 times in a row, and I was like, everything is happening back to back with no lead in at all. Suddenly, a figure jumps out of the water and defends him, but he doesn't see who it is until it's revealed to be his savior is a giant kangaroo-man. Ryan panics and runs for it, and that's when he realizes that his leg is miraculously fully functional. He is then set upon by a little person and then immediately rescued by a beautiful blonde woman. And everything I just said happened within 45 seconds. Everything I just said happened in 45 seconds of film.
So quick.
It was so fast. The goons from earlier take Ryan's backpack back to the leader. Their leader named Komodo, played by Angus McFadden. Angus McFadden plays Komodo. He's dressed as David Bowie from a Labyrinth sequel that didn't occur. They search the bag and find the book that Ryan was given, but they can't read it. Ryan gets some sweet exposition from the blonde lady that saved him. Komodo started minding the life springs of Tao for a mineral with a ridiculous name I already can't remember, to sustain his own life. And now the only life spring that remains is in the village where the people all live together.
And the kangaroos.
It's filled with humans and beast people and maybe elves. There was a guy with pointed elf ears at one point. And again, so much slow motion through here, despite no action happening. We meet Master Chung, who introduces the Warriors of Virtue and the elements that they command: lie, the virtue of order, and also wood. Sun or shun, I couldn't really hear it right. Virtue of loyalty and earth. Chi, virtue of wisdom and fire. Yi, virtue of righteousness and metal. And also he doesn't talk for some reason. And Yan, their leader, virtue of benevolence and water, who isn't there because he lost his will to fight. And then I wrote again, oh my, why is there still so much slow motion?
Nobody knows.
That's right. They asked to see the manuscript, but Ryan is forced to reveal to the warriors that Komodo has it, or the bad guy has it. Or no, I'm in the wrong spot in the movie. That one of the other warriors who saved him must have it, and they realize he's talking about Yan, who popped out of the water.
Yeah.
Ryan and Alicia, the blonde woman who rescued him, talk, but she friend zones him really hard very early on. She takes him to see the ancient statues, and she reveals that Jan stepped away after he killed someone, which is a big deal. Ryan is stolen away from the ruins, but Jan intervenes again out of nowhere with even more slow motion. They realize the bad guy has the book, and Ryan tries to convince Jan to come back, but Jan refuses. But then he agrees with almost no persuasion, and having nothing have changed. He just agrees to come back. Komodo redoubles his efforts to capture Ryan, setting his worst henchmen after him. The warriors plan their plot to go and steal back the book, but Alicia, Marley Shelton, betrays them and takes allegiance with Komodo out of her anger over Jan killing her brother.
That's the guy he killed.
It's actually kind of deep, though not well earned plot moment. Also, she's hooked on drugs. Komodo has her hooked on heroin, basically. So there's also that.
And they had her looking so young as when she met him, and then they have her all sexualized up later on.
They're like, yeah, get them boobs out there, girlie.
It was disturbing.
Ryan awakes. Suddenly an adult man is in his room. It's the little person from earlier, and he says that he has the manuscript. He stole it right out from under Komodo's nose, and he tricks Ryan into following him into a trap. Who would have seen it coming? The bad guy tries to take Ryan, but Master Chung shows up, and he stops one of the commanders with a weird touch attack thing, and there's so much slow motion. And the warriors are foiled when they go to steal the manuscript, but it's an illusion, and 3 of them are captured with almost no effort. They're dropped into a pit filled with like a big swirling blender blade at the bottom, barely catching a ledge before hitting the blades. They hang one of them, whichever one the metal one is who doesn't talk, jams the spinning blades with his circle thing long enough for them to escape. Meanwhile, Komodo's attacking the village. Ryan runs while Master Chung fights him off. Ryan is chased by the other henchmen. And oh my, so much slow motion. Chung is getting whooped, but ends up sacrificing himself to save Ryan, getting killed in the process. The village is then under attack. The other 2 remaining warriors defend as best they can, but there are too many of them. Ryan is taken to the palace as the Roos try to recover and reconvene, and they force him to read the book, but it's blank. So he improvises and reads, it says shit happens, which is then said multiple times by 5 different characters in rapid succession.
In a children's movie.
Shit,
I thought they got
shit happens like 7 times.
I thought they got like 1 or 2 shits in a PG movie, but they said it's like 3 or 4, 5 times. Yeah.
Komodo realizes that Ryan can't read the book and goes to kill Ryan, but Alicia uses a scarf magic power to stop him, and then she is immediately murdered. Ryan makes his escape with the help of Wily Beast and Mosley, who are like a water buffalo and a rhinoceros man. The Roos mourn the death of Master Chung as Ryan just weeps uncontrollably, homesick and ready to leave. Mudlap, the little guy who tricked him earlier, tells him the Roos need him and gives him his wristwatch back. I guess it's a nice moment. Komodo's commander, Grillo, search feverishly for the manuscript as Ryan reunites with the Roos. He reveals he can't read the book. He can't help them. The Roos resolve to defend their home. Jan is reunited with his sword that he gave up when he killed that guy. And they go to confront Komodo, but Komodo splits into 5 like illusory forms, but they're not illusory because they're physically there. Each Roo fights a different form. The Roos hold their own, getting in some good hits, but Komodo fights dirty and gets the better of each of them. Ryan struggles to try to read the book and hears Master Chung in his head, and then the book glows, and then he can just read the book.
Use the force, Ryan.
Yep, that's all it took was just him trying harder, I guess. And that's when Ryan realizes that Komodo lost his powers when he killed Master Chung, despite the fact that he still seems fine and can create multiple illusory copies of himself. Somehow Ryan's like, he lost his power. Sure. Jan and Komodo battle it out, with Komodo trying to force Jan to kill him. Ryan taunts Komodo with the book that he can now read. The warriors combine their medallions, which they had this whole time and did not reference or make any sense. A portal of light opens and consumes Komodo because they combined their necklaces.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Ryan is badly injured, but of course is all right, because what kind of ending would that be if he wasn't? General Grillo and his men agree to lay down their arms. They join the warriors in peace, and a mind-wiped Komodo wanders in, and for some reason they invite him to stay.
He's good
The
now.
life spring reignites. The soldiers lay down their arms. Even Yi talks to say thank you to Ryan. Ryan starts glowing and disappears, and suddenly he's back at the moment before he went across the pipe, being taunted by the bully. He throws the spray paint can in and refuses to cross. Just then, the water jets, and everyone realizes he would have been knocked off. The pipe is cracked, and Brad is embarrassed and cries out that he can't get back across the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan makes it home. His mom tucks him in. He checks on the butterfly in the jar, which doesn't hatch, which would have been a nice moment, but I guess they just decided to not do that. And then he hugs his dog. The end.
You just did a grand service to us all by doing that long description. Oh
Man, it was rough.
Yeah.
So you had never even, this was in no way on your radar.
Not at all. When I see the kangaroo people, they look familiar. Like, I think I remember toys of them or something when I was younger. But other than that, nothing. Like, it's like someone took Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and Neverending Story and just like vomited up together in some kung fu movie.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. This is a copycat of no less than 3 or 4 different things.
Oh yeah, just shoved together very poorly. But I will say, if we're going some good things first, really cool early fantasy era visuals, like the costume set and props of Tao, the magical land, were pretty darn cool and really well done. Like they belonged to a different movie, I think. Like that was very cool. Like in the animatronics for the kangaroos, the puppetry for those were fantastic. I think they looked pretty realistic, and these would stand up pretty well today, I think. I don't know. What do you think about that stuff?
I agree. I think some of the only real successful parts of this movie were that the kangaroos looked and I think moved well. It's hard to tell. Every time they did anything, they were in slow motion blur.
Mm.
So it's hard to tell if they looked good or if that was like a cheap tactic to cover it up. But then you get Wily Beast and mostly like the water buffalo man,
Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, and they both looked good.
Yeah, they did.
So I think those practical effects and the world they created, even the village, like all that production value stuff was there.
Mm-hmm.
Real money was spent to make it look good.
Big old sets and everything.
I just think the real shame was that they then just the motion blur. I know it was a creative choice. Like somebody thought that it was going to make it look more mystical and enhance the magical vision. Someone thought that, but all it did was blur the hard work and actual, quality of this film.
Well, I have some explanations, I think, for that, and they don't involve creative choices for some of them. Like the fight scenes, if you watch the actual fighting, you'll notice is actually in regular speed, but I think was filmed. They had to fight slower because of the costumes, and they sped it up. And so it looks blurred because they didn't use a different frame rate when they were filming. So they filmed everything at the same frame rate, and they either slowed it down or sped it up, depending on what effect they were going for. So they show the fight scene. It's actually them moving in like what looks kind of like a normal speed, but it looks blurred at the same time because they sped up a normal frame rate. And then they cut to his face, like Ryan reacting to the fight, and he's in slow motion, like, oh no. And that was also filmed in the same frame rate. So like when he slow it down, it looks weird. So everything looks jarring and blurry and weird because they filmed everything at the same frame rate. It was like, what are they doing? But I really think they had to do the fight scene slow because of the big costumes, and they sped it up, and it looks blurry and weird because of that. And then, all the other scenes, so much slow-mo. And I think that might be like a Chinese filmmaking technique, because you think of like John Woo, who did like Face Off and stuff. He constantly used slow motion. They make fun of him for it. And so I think maybe that's like a Chinese thing that they're used to doing a lot of slow motion for extra dramatic effect. But it was just...
Well, it was dramatic, all right.
It made me queasy at parts because there were just so much like weird blurs and strange movements. And I was like, oh, what is happening? But you're absolutely right.
That being said, I thought a lot of the fight choreography like looked good. It didn't look low quality.
Yeah.
Once again, it was just a shame that every single ounce of it was covered by this effect that they chose to use in some form or fashion.
It ruined it.
I would, if that was not there, I may have a very different opinion of this film. That being said, there was a lot of weird stuff. You said like the Marley Shelton thing where like they were selling her as like a demure princess and then hoed her up at one point.
Just boobs everywhere. I looked her up, and thankfully she was 23 during the filmmaking of this, so she just looks very young. But because I thought she was like a teenager, and I'm like, why are they? That's really gross. They're putting her in this like booby outfit, but she was like 23 years old, so I guess whatever.
But yeah, like some of the production value stuff was very high. The music was okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of I'm not going to say the acting was good. But they had some good character people in the right spots. Komodo's side henchman kind of struck that right balance of serious and silly.
Yeah, the one guy from Pirates of the Caribbean was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then even as I said, like, Miss Mosley and Wily Beast and like those secondary characters kind of had their moments. And there's just... the blur like really changes my opinion of this entire film.
I agree. It just sucks the energy right out of it.
It just, yeah. And the worst part is that there were some places where in the final fight scenes, which were a ton of blur. There was one where like Ryan was running in and he had the book in his hand or something and he threw it, and him running into the shot and him throwing the book was all in slow motion. And then the reaction shot of the book landing was fine, was not done slow motion. And they immediately went back to slow motion. I was like, what? Who cut this movie together?
What is happening?
But, I don't know.
I thought there was it must be budget constraints, but I wish there were more strange creatures beyond just the Roos and the two other random guys, the Cowboy and Bebop characters, that were not humans, but probably because of budget, they couldn't do that because it didn't seem like there were many strange creatures. Most of them were just humans. And there's just those two random guys who seemed like be the only people of their race, there, like the
two random guys. There was little people.
True.
Mudlap. There might have been elves. I'm telling you, I saw a guy with 20 ears. And then there was that, remember when they cut to Komodo and there's that one weird creature singing?
Maybe.
It's like a monkey creature. Might have been a monkey creature.
Huh.
Yeah, but it was like a very specific effect for this one shot, and then it was done.
And then we talked about this on our Muppet Trek we recorded today, but then another instance of an early movie where this kid was bullied all the time, and he must be a great person with a good heart, and he gets to this place, and he literally bullies the little person for being little. Like he called him like I forgot what he called him, but like, you 2-foot creep. That's what he called him. I was like,
yeah,
what the hell, man?
Sounds right.
And so it's like, we're not learning any lessons here. This is terrible. And then like they basically just kill Komodo at the end, even though they're surprised when he comes back to life and he has no memory. But like, I thought the whole thing was not to kill anybody, but he's like, oh, he sacrificed himself, Ryan, so that this guy would die. But you still killed somebody. Like this, that didn't seem consistent at all.
No, they united their amulets that they all had this whole time.
Yeah.
And a portal of light absorbed him.
Of course. Yeah. It's just like Power Rangers, where it's like, why are they waiting to become the big giant Zorg thing?
Yeah. Why don't they start with that?
Yeah, exactly. And the characters just all felt very one-dimensional. There was no like, it's just, you don't really get close to anybody in this movie that much, I don't think. I mean, yeah, the one guy eventually talks at the end. Like you said, the one guy he decides to help with on a dime. He just doesn't really, there's no reason why he decided to help. It's just, I don't know, Never-Ending Story did it better. Basically what it comes down to.
So for our audience, this might be worth a watch.
Because it's weird. It's interesting.
It's weird. It's interesting. There are some good costumes. There's some good production value. It is just all buried under a mist of mild slow motion.
Yeah, so we can get over that.
If you can get over a mist of mild slow motion, it's probably worth a look.
Yeah, maybe. For some trivia for this flick, this movie cost $56 million to produce back in the 1990s, which is quite a bit. The film's producers, brothers Ron, Dennis, Christopher, and Jeremy Law, were surgeons by trade and had never produced a film before. But their father, Joseph Law, was a wealthy toy manufacturer in China, and he put up most of the reported of $36 million of the budget, and then they got a studio to put the rest of the $20 million down. So
wow,
they just got this thing made. A couple surgeons. The costumes, creatures, animatronics, and makeup were done by Tony Gardner of Alterian Inc., who, funny story, was one of the zombies in the Thriller music video for Michael Jackson back in the day. But then he went on to work on the makeup effects for The Blob, and more recently, he's known as being the designer for the Daft Punk helmets the guys wear in the Daft Punk group. He like does like kind of more technical stuff. And he got nominated for an Academy Award for the makeup that he did for Jackass Bad Grandpa, which had Johnny Knoxville in like old man makeup. That actually won an Academy Award nomination. Film critic Cale Klein of the Carlsbad Current Argus was so physically distressed by the film while he was watching it that he actually vomited during the initial screenings of it. So I think it's all that slow motion blur crap happening. He just threw up in the middle of the movie.
So much.
Siskel and Ebert people, Gene Siskel voted thumbs down and described Warriors of Virtue as generic junk made for the international action market, a cheap hybrid of Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles, and he's absolutely right. And Roger Ebert also voted thumbs down. However, he praised the set design and said in his review, he made a great setting for a stupid story. So I'd say that's fairly accurate. That's pretty much how we felt about this movie. But Steve, I hear that you have a little bit for us.
That's right. This week, as we are reviewing Warriors of Virtue in honor of Wolfman, coming out, a man bit by a wolf, afflicted with a curse, transforming under the full moon. I'm going to give Jarman a few other animal man hybrids. And Jarman, you need to tell me their tragic backstory.
Oh, boy.
In a game that I'm calling Blank Man. Are you ready to play Blank Man?
Let's do it.
All right. First up, Walrus Man.
Walrus Man. All right. Well, there's a guy who would always sit on the docks every night because he just was depressed and he had a dead-end job and couldn't find love. And one day he finally meets a woman, and he goes and takes her to the docks that he loves to sit at night, looking at the walruses out there because he's in Greenland. That's where he lives. And suddenly they're about to their first kiss. But as soon as he's about to kiss her, a walrus jumps up and impales him and infects him with a magical Greenland fairy device. And he turns into a walrus.
The love story intertwined, I think, is my favorite part.
She runs away horrified, and he forever stalks her as an ugly walrus man.
Walrus man. All right, next one, Rabbit Man.
Rabbit Man. So this one is actually a porn film. It's about a story of a guy who just can go around, and not only because they call him Thumper for short, but he can impregnate women at record speed. It's not what you'd think.
Wow. So he's just a fast finisher.
He's a fast finisher. The good old Thumper.
Right,
he gets the job done.
All right. Octopus Man.
Octopus Man. Well, this one, he was a scientist studying octopi, and they're so strange in their biology, and they don't understand how they got here. They evolved so differently. So he's studying them in a lab, and he's getting down to the molecular level and breaking apart their atoms. And once he finally does that, it explodes, and he realizes they were from outer space. But the breaking of the octopus atom creates this octopus man hybrid who is just now forever torn between being like
I
a
like
superhero.
the breaking of the octopus atom.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
So now he's like an anti-hero. He sometimes does things for good, sometimes for bad, but he squirrels around everywhere with his 8 legs.
Sometimes he's just trying to get into a bottle he found.
That's right.
All right. Flamingo Man.
I knew this guy, actually. I grew up with him in Florida. He retired here from New York, and he just has a lot of flamingos in his front yard, and so we all call him Flamingo Man.
That's fair.
It's an A24 indie film about that guy.
His real name is Howard.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Final one. Gerbil Man.
Oh, well, you're not going to like this one either, but this is...
Is it about the gerbil particle?
This is the autobiography of Richard Gere.
That's fair.
It's an old reference, folks. Look it up.
It's a book that'll be released after his death.
Yes. But that was a thing that was on the news and a rumor that's been around for 30 years.
For a long time.
Check it out. So I ruined your bit a little bit, but...
No. That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, that is in honor of Wolf Man. That was Blank Man.
Hope you enjoyed, folks. Time for some
Bam.
radical recommends.
Recommend.
If you have the means, I highly recommend picking one up.
What do you recommend I do?
I recommend Pleasant.
All right. Well, we got a few TV shows I'm going to recommend here that I've been watching with the wife. We're avoiding finishing shows we actually started and just started watching new stuff. Her parents have recommended The Bear several times, as a lot of people talk about as well, but it didn't sound like something that interested me. It's about working in a professional restaurant, but it's gotten a lot of acclaim. People were making news stories about how it was up for awards, but in the comedy category. And people are like, this is not a comedy. And it's a half-hour show, usually, a half hour to 40 minutes. It kind of can do whatever it wants on Hulu. And it's the story of this guy coming back to his hometown because his brother died, who owned this, beef sandwich place in Chicago, like real kind of run-of-the-mill beef sandwich place. But he was a big-time chef in New York. So he wants to rebuild this place into like a fancier restaurant. And every episode is so stressful because just constant movement, constant trying to serve the dishes, fix things that are breaking. There's a broken down store. And it's really, really good and has a lot of funny parts, but it's so stressful. You can only watch like one half hour episode at a time. You cannot binge this show. Like you'll just like die of an anxiety attack. But I do say it's worth it if you can, as long as you do a palate cleanser afterwards of like a comedy or something slow moving afterwards, because it's so stressful. The guy who's going to play the Thing in the Fantastic Four movie is in this show. This is where he got like his big break, and he's really good in it. He's a very annoying character, but very good. And we just watched an episode tonight from season 2 that has a huge star-studded cast. It's like a flashback, hour-long episode. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, Bob Odenkirk, other people too. I can't think about it. Oliver Platt is in it in the show a lot. But it's just got a big old cast. It's it's just really well done. So worth checking out.
I was actually about to ask if you've watched Feast of the Seven Fishes.
Yes.
That is one of my favorite episodes of television.
We just watched it tonight. That was our first time
Ever.
watching it.
It is just so dynamic, so many different levels played. So it's a great episode.
I didn't realize you were watching The Bear too. Yeah, it's
we're caught up. We're good.
we're still on season 2. We just finished The Feast of Seven Fishes tonight, and it's the only hour-long episode it had. And dear Lord, I was so stressed and tired after that. Just like out of this world. But also, I'm still catching up on my Walking Dead stuff. And I think I talked about that before with the Tales of the Walking Dead. And I did finish what's available for Dead City, which is where Negan and I'm forgetting her name now. His worst enemy, basically. He killed her husband. They're off to get their own show in Paris.
I can't remember her name either. I'm going to go nuts.
I know. It's killing me.
Maggie.
Was it? Maggie, yeah.
Maggie.
So Negan and Maggie go to New York City and see what's happening there now with The Walking Dead. And it's fascinating, but not as good as I thought as Daryl Dixon. Watched that one finally. The first season of which is now on Netflix because you can't find AMC shit unless they decide to put it other places. But yeah, that one was really good. Daryl Dixon, believe it or not, ends up in Paris. And what's going on in Paris while this whole thing is going down? It's kind of fascinating, actually better than Dead City so far. And now I'm currently watching The Ones Who Live, which is the limited series, which discusses what happened with Rick. So it was going to be a movie initially, but they reduced it down, but made it longer, which is nice. So you have Rick and Michonne and what's going on with them and will they find each other again kind of thing. So yeah, they're actually really good. There's shorter seasons, so there's a lot more quality packed in. Whereas Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead had a lot of duds you had to wait through.
Just so many episodes to get through. And
yeah.
Episodes featuring characters you didn't care about, especially late, once people clearly had better contracts and had weeks off.
Yes. And a lot of meandering around farms and prisons and stuff. Whereas these ones are short seasons. Every episode is packed full of plot and stuff going on. So you're constantly wanting to watch the next episode. So I actually do recommend the spinoff series, surprisingly. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought they were going to be just filler crap, but they're all produced by the actors too, like executive produced by a lot of the actors. They're really invested in them. So they're really good. I check them out if you like Walking Dead stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Steve, that brings us some trailer reviews.
All right, so this week for trailer reviews, I chose the much anticipated 28 Years Later.
Mm-hmm.
We got Danny Boyle's new love note to the world, and we're all here to enjoy it. The original is one of my absolute favorites. The second one even has its charms. But I love this idea of the scale of the story that they're trying to tell. And I'm very excited to watch it. What did you think of the trailer, and what do you think of the sort of franchise?
Yeah, I really remember the first one, and I liked it a lot. And for some reason, I love Brendan Gleeson and anything he's in. You might know him as Mad Eye Moody if you're Harry Potter fans, but he's like in so many movies. And just the scene of him in that first movie looking up at what fell on his head, and the little piece of blood just floats down and hits him in the eyeball. And then he now has the rage virus. I was just like, oh my God, that was amazing. And the fact that you have running zombies is just nuts. So very scary.
Okay. I got to take some issues with this.
What's up?
Because this is all. So running zombies. Okay. Danny Boyle gets credited with running zombies.
I'm not saying he started it. I'm just saying that it exists in this movie, and that's good.
No. I'm not saying you're doing. The community in general says he started it.
Oh, I wouldn't make that claim because
there was
know.
even an episode of Actually that features a question where he is given credit. And I challenge anyone to go back to Dawn of the Dead, the remake, George A. Romero, which came out years before 28 Days Later. And there is a one-armed zombie who you get to watch come around a corner and sprint after the protagonist.
Oh.
So Boyle gets no credit here. People are wrong. They can watch the movie.
I like it. And it's got Aaron Taylor
but
Johnson.
He did not.
And Ralph Fiennes. And apparently Cillian Murphy is coming back in some fashion, but he hasn't said what yet. He's definitely not the lead of the movie. Maybe he'll have like a smaller part. And also Alex Garland, who has never made a bad movie, I think, is co-writing this with Danny Boyle. And he's great. And yeah, trailer looks really creepy and depressing, but like any zombie movie.
The thing that makes me nervous about this is that that we're gonna lose focus, sort of like Walking Dead did. We're gonna lose focus on the dead, on the virus, on the zombies, and it's just gonna become this big human on human massacre nonsense. I do like exploring like what happens to humans when humanity drops away. But if I've waited all this time for this zombie film and they're not the bad guys, I'm going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But at this point, the theory is that there's some sort of cult that maybe like worships the rage virus or has been shaped by it in some way. And the theory right now is that Cillian Murphy is the head of that. And that's why we don't see him in this trailer.
I like that idea. They also show hints of like giant zombies and like a big flesh monster and stuff. And so I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but it looked like it from the trailers. It's weird. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, you see the back of some sort of big rippling monster kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
So I'm going to give this one Raul Julia comes home from work, hangs up his keys, and he hears something, and he looks up, and a drop of something gets in his eye, and he goes, "God damn it, Gary!" Gary's look. He's like, "I'm sorry, I keep throwing my straws into the ceiling, Raul." And it's just a bunch of Capri Sun straws that still have dripping juice coming off of them.
Capri Sun, of course.
I like the taste of red.
I love poking the hole in it. Gets rid of my anger, my rage.
I just stab them and then throw them away.
I don't need that juice. I'm going to give this one. You just have Raul Julia staring into a mirror in his bathroom, and you hear in the background outside the door Gary Busey just clamoring away, and on the flashes on the screen it says 28 days later, and you see Raul Julia say, "Why did I move in with this man 28 days ago?" And then you see suddenly it fades out, fades back in. You see Raul Julia looking into the mirror again, more haggard as his beard starting to grow out, and it says 28 weeks later. He's like, "I'm not sure how much longer I can handle this." And then you see a bedraggled old Raul Julia staring into the bathroom mirror, his eyes turning bloodshot red, and it says 28 years later. He's like, "I've had it." And he runs out, busts through the door, and just murders Gary Busey and eats his face off.
That was finally what took him over the edge.
Yeah.
We found the end.
28 years later.
28 years later, he finally was done.
The rage virus took over. It was called Gary Busey. But that does it for episode 213 of A Play on Nerds. Please join us next time for a very special episode, as usual, where we're going to be celebrating the release of Star Trek Section 31, the new series, I think a limited series or movie? I don't remember. It's one of the two that they're releasing on Paramount Plus. And in honor of that, we're talking about another classic of the sci-fi genre where secret wars in space cause ripples of destruction throughout the galaxy. And it's called, of course, Star Crash.
Star Crash, that great Star Trek / Star Wars ripoff. And we're going to bring it to you hard.
Hard.
That's right. It's the hardest movie that came out in 1978. Don't look that up.
If it was 1978.
Don't look it up. It was.
Oh, it was.
I remember. But join us for all that fun and more here on A Play on Nerds. Come on back and be our nerdy audience. We'll keep on coming back and being your nerdy co-hosts. Thanks again, Internet.
Stay nerdy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to A Play on Nerds. Feel free to email feedback at aplayonnerds.com with all your questions or comments.
Shoot us a message on Facebook or Twitter and earn yourself a sweet shout out on the show.
Review us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts so even more nerds can find us. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, we aren't picky.
Check out our entire back catalog and other offerings at aplayonnerds.com.
And how?